You are now listening to Dear Dope Chick, a weekly podcast created to inspire and energize women to live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Felicia, and here's today's dose of dope. Dear Dope Chick, welcome and welcome back. How are you doing today? How do you feel? Are you up for the challenge of taking action today? For those of you who are new here, Dear Dope Chick is an action-based podcast. That means that every single episode you are challenged to take one small step that aligns with the life that you want to live. Of course, you are not obligated to take action. You are free to listen to this podcast straight through and do absolutely nothing. I say that in every episode because it is your choice. Exercise your right to choose. You get to choose what you want to do based on what you hear in this podcast. What I do ask is that you have somewhere dedicated that you can write down all that we discuss in this podcast so that you can go back and look at your progress. And that place, that journal, that notebook, whatever you have, is the place, the sacred place for you to see how much you have grown from day one to today. All right. Again, you do not have to take action, but if you are ready to change your life for yourself, to do something that you have never done before, and to really take charge of your life, to live it to its fullest, to make the mistakes, to figure out what works, what doesn't work, to see the failures become successes. If you are ready for that to happen in your life, take some action today. We're taking one small step, okay? One small step. This week, I'd like to chat about lowering our expectations to raise our vibrations. Expectations force us to overlook what's actually happening in this moment and to mentally replace it with a vision of how we feel situations, experiences, and people should be or should act. It screams perfectionism. Think about that. Because we want it to do what we want it to do and behave how we want it to behave and be how we want it to be. It makes us think we have to experience life a certain way in order to get certain results. It reeks of insecurity and lack of trust, and it is deeply rooted in fear and of a scarcity mindset. It's because we feel like if we can't have it our way, then we can't have it at all, when we know life is way more abundant than that, right? Which leads me to my next point. Expectations hold us hostage from experiencing life at its fullest. They are blessing busters. We don't realize there's a blessing to be grateful for because we're so tied to a certain process and a certain outcome. It has to look a certain way, it has to feel a certain way, it has to be a certain way. We have to take certain steps to get to where we want to get to based off of what we perceive as right. All of these things are based off of our perceptions, that there's no room left for anything else to be true in our situations. What if I told you there's no way to get 2 but to add 1 plus 1? Well, we know that's not true. We know that we can get to a lot of different ways, but because we're so programmed to see things a certain way or to abide by a certain type of rules, we don't give ourselves space to think outside of the box. We are blinded by our own expectations, and it robs us of truly enjoying the moment. Honestly, how can you be grateful for something when you don't even see what you're grateful for in the first place? If you don't even recognize that there is a blessing sitting right in front of you, sitting on your lap, how can you be grateful for it? It takes mindfulness and it takes awareness. And those are two things that we can exercise today that keeps us in check of our own expectations and also the expectations we place on other people. How do we know? I just want to ask you, how do we know what we want in life is going to yield us the greatest reward? How do we know that our process is the process? How do we know that our desired outcome is the outcome of all outcomes? How do we know that that's what life wants to give us? We are so limited by our own experiences and our way of life that What we think is bomb.com pales in comparison to what the universe has to offer us. Expectations impede on our imagination and our creativity. They limit our scope of living, our range of thinking, our growth. It distorts how we learn and how we apply this new knowledge and these new practices to our lives. Expectations are self-imposed boundaries. It's another way we bind ourselves to living small, to not taking chances, to not taking risks, to confining ourselves to our own little bubble, to not really exploring. We act as if we're okay with the idea of trying new things, of exploring new possibilities, but the control factor is so strong. We don't relinquish the control or surrender to the process. Then we use phrases like, oh, this has to work out this way. It's my way or the highway. Those types of phrases perpetuate this type of thinking. Then, when it doesn't turn out the way that we expected, what's next? What happens next? We're met with frustration, we're met with disappointment, and we're met with unnecessary struggle in our lives. We are gonna face frustration, we're gonna face disappointment, we're gonna face struggle in our lives. Those are all part of the human experience. And maybe this is the path that many of us have to take in order to see that we do not have to stay in a perpetual state of frustration, of disappointment, and of struggle. We do not have to live that way. For example, we expect our significant others to know us inside and out. They need to know our favorite flower, our favorite stone or jewelry. They need to know our favorite food, our favorite colors, our love language. Hello, you got to know all this stuff in order to be with me. We also have other expectations that we place on them. They have to look a certain way. They have to behave a certain way. They have to have a certain job. They have to do this, do that, our way, no way, highway. And when they fall short, what happens then? We complain about their behavior. We talk shit about them to our confidants. We don't give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. I shouldn't have to tell them that. They should know that I don't like that. I shouldn't have to communicate that with them. They should know. Why should they know? Why? That is a huge assumption to make about someone. We change every single day. Our interests change, our attitudes change, our lifestyle choices change. And this isn't to make excuses for someone else's behavior. This is to encourage you to check yourself and to keep our own expectations in check. Think about when we're excited about something and we tell our friends about it and they meet us with a not so enthusiastic reply. Now we're sitting there thinking that our friends are haters when really they responded like that because of what they're going through, their own personal issues. Oh, they're not enthusiastic about me. Cut them off. Another assumption that we put on people based off of their responses. But did we stop and ask them what's going on with them? Why are we taking their responses so personal? If we're already excited, or should I say when we're already excited about something, why can't we still be excited about it? Why are our feelings contingent upon how they feel? We have to seriously consider what the expectation is that we've placed on them in that moment. And when it differs from what we're actually experiencing, we need to delve deep. Dig deep and ask ourselves why we feel the way we feel. We don't have to feel this way, but why do we feel this way? And get to the root of it. The root is likely ego. Having said that, having no expectations in life requires unconditional love, and unconditional love is the highest vibration. Love is unconditional. Love has no bounds. Fear does. Fear operates in a place of lack, in a place of scarcity, whereas love is abundant. Love is freely given, freely received. It's out there. Anybody can have it. Anybody can use it. Listen, there's enough love to go around, fam. So knowing that, ridding ourselves of expectations says, regardless of what someone else does, I'm going to love them through it. Do you believe that? Do you believe with your whole heart that you can love anyone? Not just your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, your auntie, your kids, your spouse, your significant other, whomever is close to you and in your inner circle. Not those people. I'm not talking about your best friends and them. I'm talking about anybody. Can you say and look at someone and truly believe that you can love them regardless of what they got going on in their life. Employing this type of behavior every single day requires much persistence and much determination and much intentionality. We become walking embodiments of love. I am love. We are love. I am walking in love. I am giving in love. I am doing in love. I am being in love. I'm taking this path. This is the path I want to be on. Not focusing on what you don't want in your life, but focusing on where you want to be and what you want to do. Does it mean that when you love someone unconditionally that you agree with every single thing that they do? Absolutely not. That is not what that means at all. Support isn't about accepting someone on a conditional level based off of what you feel is right or wrong, is whether or not you'll extend support. That's not real support. Support is loving someone through their mess. Support means that you are there for them, that when or if they should fail, you'll be there to love on them. It means that you accept them for who they are, with the understanding that we all struggle. We all are going through something. We all have issues. And because we all have issues, we all deserve grace and space to make the mistakes that we make. And if you feel like this is just too much for me to deal with, I just can't handle being around this person like this all the time, then you make the decision to remove yourself from the situation. Don't put the onus on them and the burden on them to conform to what you like. That's not what living their life on their own terms looks like. There are a lot of different options that you can choose from, because living life on your own terms means that you decide how you want to live your life and how you want to interact with other people. So if that means leaving the situation or not caring about what they got going on, or freeing yourself of that worry, of that concern, then so be it. Do that for yourself. Do that to free yourself, to emancipate yourself from the situation, because their situation doesn't have to be your situation. You don't have to care as much as you do in terms of trying to change them. Sometimes we get so bogged down by other people's situations and choices that we feel like we know what's best for them. But trust people enough to know that they know what is best for them and that they are doing what is best for them in that situation. All we can do is support their choices and stand by them in their times of need. Okay, so for today, I want you to write down some of the expectations you have in your life. What are the expectations you have for yourself? How do you feel like you're supposed to behave? Do you give yourself grace when you fall short? Are you hard on yourself for not meeting your goals? How do you feel like a significant other is supposed to behave, whether you have one or not? What are your expectations of a significant other? How do you feel like they're supposed to behave? How do you feel like they are supposed to look? What is their financial status supposed to look like? What are their living conditions supposed to look like? What are your expectations of your friends? Are they supposed to call you every day? Are they supposed to be there for you in your tough times? I mean, what are the expectations of them? Coworkers, what do you expect your coworkers to do? How do you expect for them to act? Are they supposed to tell you good morning? If they don't tell you good morning, are you upset with them for the rest of the day? How are your expectations of strangers? Do you have expectations of strangers? Before you say you don't have expectations of how strangers are supposed to act, think about all of the things you say in terms of they should have common sense. Common sense will tell you, or they're not considerate. All of those things are expectations. When you see kids behaving the way that they behave, do you have expectations for how they're supposed to behave in certain situations? Then I really want you to ask yourself, have you made these expectations that you have for other people clear to them? Have you verbally expressed them? Have you written them down for them to read over and to consider? What is it about your expectations that is so important for them to follow? What makes you the person that is an expectation setter? What makes you that person? What gives you the authority? And what would happen if they don't live up to your expectations? Would you love them less? Would you stop doing for them? There's no right or wrong here. This is an activity to examine your expectations of others and how it affects your relationships with them. You cannot change them. You can only change yourself. So if you don't like the state of the relationship that you're in right now, what can you do to fix it? Then I want you to act on it by lowering your expectations of others. When you feel like your ears are getting hot because you're seeing red, think about the expectation you have versus what is actually happening right now. Is there something you can do to change your situation? If so, what can it be? Are you upset because they aren't following your directions? Is that what's making you upset? Have you asked them what is going on? Are you assuming something about them, or are you projecting how you feel onto them? Think about that. Think about all of this. Use your feelings as feedback to help you understand where the work must start for you. This isn't about them. It is really about you. You are responsible for your happiness, no one else. You choose where to focus your energy. Your emotions will rise, and you get to choose how you want to handle that. How do you want to handle your emotions? Do you want to stay here, or do you want to go somewhere else? You get to choose your state of being. When you realize that none of this shit is real, you'll stop wanting to control everyone's narrative. Everything you are seeing with your two eyes is made up in your own head. Our lives are different. Our perspectives and our perceptions are different. Even if we're looking at the same thing, all of this is going to be different for us. No one sees the world exactly like you do. Understand, you can change how you see the world. You can live differently. You can experience life differently. You don't have to live it how you've been living it if you don't like the way that you're living it. Think about how your expectations are holding you back from truly experiencing the life you want to live. Life on your own terms starts when you change. You change how you view the world, and your whole world will change. Yes, for those of you who have been following this podcast since day one, we are still utilizing and writing and reciting our affirmations. So by now, it is a habit. You wake up, you say them because it's ingrained in you. If you're new here, you can grab a deck of encouragement and affirmation cards from the site deardopechick.com and have them ready-made, ready for you to pluck and read and recite and believe and then put back in the deck. Or you can give them to your friends and have them do the same. So visit us at deardopechick.com, cop a deck of affirmation cards, and get started on your affirmation journey. Also, do not forget to listen to our previous episodes so that you are up on game and you understand what we're talking about in terms of affirmations, why they're impactful, how they can transform your life, all of that jazz. Show notes for this episode can be found on the blog, adailydoseofdope.com. Come join us. Every single day I'm sending out an email, I'm sending out a text message that truly energizes and inspires you to live life on your own terms, to take one small step, to do something today, to change your perspective, to change your attitude, to change your way of living so that you can live the life that you most desire. I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for taking the time out to slow down, to listen, to take in the message. Thank you for showing up for yourself, but most importantly, thank you for being you. I'll see you in the next episode. For more dope messages, be sure to visit adailydoseofdope.com and become a member. Also, cop your dope merch at deardopechick.com and follow us on all of our social media at deardopechick. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, be you, be dope. Love, P.